the three things that are causing issues right now in the market is that we continue to need for growth. We need growth. Even during this economy, people are still asking for growth. But how do we keep, well, we hear CEOs say, how do we keep growing? Well, I just had to fire 10 to 20% of my team. How am I going to keep growing? How am I going to drive more profitability in the SaaS world right now? How am I going to do this while the market is still cooling down?
What is the buyer's mindset when you just throw out a discount like 10% off?
Yeah, you're not listening to the customer. You're telling the customer you want to be on your timeline. And
okay, so you're not interested. Yeah, you're making it more about the sales focus. They hear your commission breath. It's like, just close the deal. They're like, we don't want to work with that. Chris, coming to you, what else can the buyer think if you're just throwing in 10% in?
It's just creating artificial urgency. You're trying. You seem a little desperate.
And most buyers, it's not the first rodeo. Most buyers already know what it's like to work with a seller. And the real psychology behind it is, why didn't you just offer the lower price the first time?
And what you'll see, and folks, if you're not watching chat right now, you're missing out, right? Because the chat is fantastic. This is the best chat I've had in ages. I don't know if you look at that. Lindsay, what do we going on the chat?
A lot of us talking about negotiation against yourself and how kind of the idea of, we have taught ourselves as salespeople, we have taught the sellers how to negotiate against us, right? They're just as educated on how to buy against us as we are educated on how to sell against them. So we know we do this. We also know it doesn't work. So that's kind of what we're getting from the chat.
There you go. And so if I see that, right, like that is a playbook all of us are quite familiar with. Over the past 10 years, with the playbooks of FUD, ROI, and FOMO, what we started to see, and based on research, as I'll share with you in a second, that it actually started to make the decision worse. Pushing on discount against the timeline has an adverse impact in a number of circumstances. Introducing new decision makers into the deal to increase the ROI has adverse impact. FUD, we already know historically has adverse impact, but that continues to play. What we notice that today's most deals are no longer just lost to competitor or substitute. What we are noticed is that most of the deals are being lost to indecision. People are just not making a decision. Let me say it again. People are just not making a decision. What they noticed that the average performer had a win rate of about 26%, but that the higher performers in the call, the higher performers had a 59%. That's a significant leap. That is like, what the heck? What do they do different? What do these others, the high performers, do different? And the thing that they were doing different is that they were feeling out and they were realizing when these customers are getting cold feet, when these customers were headed for indecision mode. It's Mia. I have three issues. I have a valuation of the problem. What does that mean? I have a lack of information and I have an uncertain outcome. We just spoke about uncertain outcome. Tell me a little bit about the lack of information. What do you think there? Have I done enough homework?
Well, if you start to have self-doubt, to be like, did I get enough information? Do I need to look for more? That starts to prolong the process. I think, Bill, you said there, analysis paralysis. So you start going to that mode of like, no, I just need more. I need more. I'm not ready to commit. Because when we put our name to a decision, who is held accountable?
What are the pings that we as sales professionals can do to help judge the types of indecision that our customers may have?
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, look, I'm on a call. I'm in a discovery call. How would you ping me if I have a fear of messing up? What would be a question you would ask me what would be a ping, or in a stakeholder meeting, or and so on and so forth?
So the anatomy of a good ping is that the answer that you get from it tells you if they're actually indecisive or not. But the problem, Jocko, that would happen is be like, hey, Jocko, how does this opportunity look to you? And if you come back, that's the problem with it. So Jocko says something like, hey, it's fantastic. I love the offering. Now, younger salesperson Dan be like, oh, dude, this buyer is ready. They got a critical event. They understand the impact. They love it. Dude, this is a done deal. But the problem is indecision often sounds positive. So the best thing that you can do right now to help judge indecision is you help them feel safe by voicing what the problem is. So I'd say something like, hey, Jocko, love that you love our solution, but I'm getting a sense that with the different configurations, you're not sure which one might be best. Am I understanding that correctly?
These letters judge the level of indecision. offer guidance, limit the explanation, and take off the risk. That is what the authors of the book call the JOLT effect. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply this to your day in, day out sales methodology. If you recommend me the wine and I don't like it, will you take it off the bill and will you give me?
I take responsibility. Yes, I gave you. And so this is a really powerful, and it's the perfect segue to the next thing, is taking risk off the table by offering my recommendation, by using my customers as advocates, by pointing down like, hey, this is my experience, but also here's what others like you, using a third-party reference or using that story. You take risk off the table, because if you don't like it, which is going to be super rare, but if you don't like it, I'll take responsibility. I'll take ownership in how to help you fix it.
Look,
And this is the opposite of how most of us have been trained in sales.